Hey yo, welcome to Beyond the Mat, where it's all about the things and stuff. It's like this and like that, sitting in a lotus seat. We breathe deep from our heads to our feet till we feel inner heat. A little bit of rhythm for your soul, stretching out your minds from your head to your toes. We in our flow state, we don't know no hate. We into feeling great though, so we correlate. Coil snake gonna rise, sunshine. We take our time to appreciate divine grace. It takes place in a pace in them inner states. From a country road down to the interstate, we contemplate this. We here to make this. We here to break this. But we never fake this. We never hate kids. We in the love vibe. Me and my whole tribe, we gonna try to be fly with the sunshine. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Beyond the Mat. Today's show is brought to you by me again. When will this ever end? When all my art has been sold. So help me out with this goal and head on over to jcoleyoga.ca and scroll on down to the art project at the bottom of the page where you can buy yourself a weird and wacky print of my latest and greatest creation. There is something for everyone. There's a picture for your mom, there's a picture for your grandma, there's one for your dog, and one your goldfish will enjoy. If you happen to like one, that means there's one for you too. Enough, Jay, enough with the pandering, with the asking for money, with the showboating your sick art skills. Enough already. And let's get down to this episode because, quite frankly, and I keep saying this lately, but wow, this has been another one of the greats. Today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, is a lady named Kathlene MacLean. Kathlene is a strategic marketing consultant, a copywriter, and a certified emotional fitness coach. That is not what it sounds like. She clarified that it is not deadlifts and squats for your emotions. But I am not gonna try and re-explain what it's all about. Y'all can just keep on listening. We get into a wide array of topics, as we often do here Beyond the Mat, such as meditation, psychic readings, hypnosis, Neuro Linguistic Programming, mind control, marketing, and we talk about getting Kathlene her very own podcast, which I'm super stoked to listen to once it's out there on the airwaves. Ladies and gents, enough of this. Give a warm welcome for a beautiful soul, Kathlene MacLean. Well, welcome, Kathlene MacLean, to Beyond the Mat. And I like that name because I used to read Maclean's magazine. Any relation? Any relation?
Oh, maybe somewhere down the road.
Cool.
It's a small world.
Yeah, for sure. So I just did one of those DNA tests recently with MyHeritage DNA and found out all kinds of crazy stuff that I didn't know about, which was really interesting.
What?
Like Ashkenazi Jew, Nigeria, part Arabic, just like a mix of a bunch of stuff. Like I'm talking like 1.9%, 3%. But then there was like the big ones like Norway and Denmark that I knew about, Ireland, Scotland, Welsh, and then of course British, chip cheerio, spot of tea and all that.
It's a melting pot.
Yeah.
So I'm primarily Scottish, I think, with a little bit of British thrown in. And I'm also Mi'kmaq. My heritage is in PEI out in Lennox Island.
Oh,
over here in the
awesome.
Maritimes.
Awesome. Cool.
Nicest people, I gotta say. The natives population are just the kindest, warmest, nicest people. It's really nice to have that around here. Well, in the whole country.
I totally agree. And, oh geez, I dated a native girl from St. Mary's from Fredericton for like 5 years. Oh geez, we even lived on the reserve in St. Mary's for like a little bit there. So like we got deep in there. And she worked in the fisheries. So we like went from port to port and to all these different reserves everywhere to get fishermen to sign off on paperwork to get mentorships in action and like paid for through different government programs, which is really cool. So like I've definitely been through some things. So yeah, life, man, life. It comes and goes and flows and rolls, and you roll with the punches and make sure you don't get caught in a current that pulls you under. But staying positive, I think, is kind of like the key, because like attracts like. I mean, I'm not big on the law of attraction, like that book in that movie or anything, but I mean, it does work in the sense that, you know, if you're constantly hyper focused on certain things, that you will draw those in because you're always looking for them. It's like, if you're hunting for a new car, you're going to see used cars everywhere and you're going to see prices everywhere. Whereas the day before, you didn't even know there was a car for sale, like right in your own neighbor's driveway. Now you see that. So that kind of stuff is like really interesting.
It's an interesting mechanism that kind of goes along with that. I mean, we have a tendency to spiritualize some of these ideas, but when we start to understand a little bit about how the brain and the neurology works and learn about things like the transderivational search, so basically that explains that whole starting to notice things you're actually looking for. Right. So when we activate our brain and start giving it a job to do, basically it'll scan every stimulus in our environment around and start looking for things, just like you said, that match, that like. So that's something the brain actually is programmed and wired to do.
What's the word that you just said? What?
Transderivational search. So it's looking for things it already can associate with or relate to.
Okay, interesting. So it's kind of like, again, like attracts like, and probably you're searching for it too. So at the same time. You're making me think.
Subconscious mind is a good helper. As soon as we get an idea, you know, that we want something or interested in something, it immediately is going to work for us. Now, whether or not that search like permeates and gets all the way to our conscious mind where we're able to consciously work with it or not, it's doing that. It's always looking for that like attracts like. That's just how we're programmed.
So you know a lot about the brain and the mind and I guess the conscious, the unconscious, the subconscious. This is kind of like your forte, would you say?
It's certainly an area of interest. I would say I know more about the mind than the brain. I'm not much of a bio person.
Right.
Although it's all connected, it's all really important. But I'm really interested in pattern recognition.
Right.
I would say maybe it's the best way to sum it up.
I always notice patterns when I see them displayed on a screen, and like I can tell what they're trying to do. Like it comes with my Google Chrome. There's just this. It's like looking at a lawn. It's just grass on the lawn, but I can see where the pattern is, where they've connected these different little squares to make it look like, I mean, at a glance, it looks like it's just one lawn, but up close, you can see these faint little distinctions here and there, where it's actually a bunch of little squares copied it over and over again into these patterns. So I'm not really great at seeing patterns in other ways, but visually, for sure, like that. But maybe explain some different kinds of patterns in life.
Well, a good example is kind of the study of history. Basically, the study of history is all about our ability to recognize patterns. So sort of, you've heard the idea, if you know where you've been, you'll know where you're going.
Yeah.
Everything repeats itself.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. And then looking for patterns, I really like looking for patterns in society and in, cultural norms and values, this kind of things. Following the same line, once we understand the background to the mechanism that's at work, the history, the events that have already taken place, and the attitudes and programs that are already running, then we have a much greater understanding of where we are now. Not only where we are now, but also where we're going. So I think being able to recognize those patterns, and then it goes into like the personal work we do as well. So if anyone's engaged in trying to break their conditioning or simply put, feel better, have a better control over their mind or their emotions, being able to recognize our own patterns is supremely important in that.
So what are
we doing that's stressing us out? Why do we keep doing it, kind of thing? Yeah,
exactly. And for me, it's mindfulness meditation that kind of puts me, it keeps me in check, allows me to be aware of things like that within my own self, my inner self. But what are like some other things? Because I know whenever you say meditation, everybody just turns their nose up like, I don't have time for that. But what are like some other maybe easier things that people could do to kind of spot some of that stuff?
Well, grounding is another kind of trendy word that gets thrown around a lot, but
and earthing.
There's grounding and earthing, but even just grounding in the sense of bringing your attention back to the present moment, not in a mystical meditation way, but literally just being, okay, what's going on, like right now, and just looking. This is especially like if we're in an elevated or agitated emotional state,
right.
Our mind just goes off at that point. So if we can really just bring it back to like, okay, where am I right now? 9 times out of 10, not any physical threat happening,
No.
Usually everything in the moment is pretty okay. Okay, are my feet on the floor? Yep. Mm-hmm. Am I in my body? Yep. Mm-hmm. Just being able to bring the mind and the awareness back to what is happening, I find is just kind of eliminates a lot of the drama. And then it's like the effect of mindfulness meditation too. It kind of gives you a window in awareness, so you can make a choice.
Right.
So it's harder to make those choices about how we're responding when we're reacting to patterns or programming preconditions.
Maybe you could even like boil that down to like a 3-point check that you could just do ever so randomly. I mean, like you just said, are my feet on the ground? Am I in my body? Like, where's my mind at? Come on, rein it in.
Something that was really helpful for me for the first years that I started meditating, I started realizing how dissociated I was and really just kind of disconnected from my body and stuff. And I found putting my awareness right behind my eyes, like just bringing like the feeling and just like consciously looking through the eyes, I found that always very centering. I mean, it's close enough to the mental activity that it's like it's not too much of a stretch to put your attention from your thoughts to your eyes, but once you hit the eyes and you're really looking, I don't know, that was always a good one for me. I mean, squats. Do a couple push-ups, do a couple jumping jacks. It's pretty hard to. It's a physiological response too. A lot of the times that makes our brain start revving.
Yeah.
So if we can like just exert some of that excess energy quickly.
So I just did that right now. What you said about kind of like looking in behind your eyes, and when I do that, I kind of feel like I'm someone else looking through like a glass window through some kind of like meat robot. It's kind of like the first thing that went through my mind. Like, ooh.
Kind of puts you in your witness brain. I have the opposite effect. It makes me feel more associated, more like I was looking as through someone else, but if I put the awareness there, it kind of makes me feel more centered. But that's interesting.
Well, I'm a weird case, that's for sure.
Well, who knows?
Oh, I know. Geez, I just have like a few notes here that you've given me about your life. So meditating for 8.5 years. That's awesome. That's like unheard of, especially coming from like the Maritimes kind of area too. I started when
I'm really lucky.
I started when I was 9, but I mean, I didn't stick with it.
Oh,
It was something I started and then stopped and then started and stopped and randomly in and out through it. But then in 2014, I really started like hard at it again. And then it's been like every day since about the middle of 2014. And
9 is young. Was it something your parents or your family were into?
Oh no, quite the opposite. We had a cottage in Nova Scotia in New Ross. If you know where New Ross is, it's close to like Mahone Bay and Peggy's Cove, like down that way. And it's on a lake, so there's a lot of rocks in the yard, and there's these giant boulders that they had to use bulldozers and backhoes to pull these boulders out. And these things are like an iceberg, so they might look like a boulder on top, I'm talking like a 5-foot stone coming up out of the ground, but then underneath the ground, it's like a 20-foot stone under the ground. So they couldn't pull all of them out. And my 2 siblings and myself were just arguing a lot and fighting, and it was getting so annoying. I was just like, you know what? Everything I want, they want. Everything I want to do, they want to do. If I want to ride the paddle boat, they want to ride the paddle boat. So I just kind of said, I'm going to go meditate. I don't know why it hit me. I think it had something to do with like either Ninja Turtles and Splinter meditating or like watching ninja movies as a kid. And I just went and sat on this rock, crossed my legs, and that was it. Closed my eyes, and holy shit. All the drama melted away. My brother and sister went away. My grandparents went away. Everybody just left me alone. Everyone stopped bugging me. And it was like, oh, leave Jay alone, he's meditating, kind of an atmosphere. And then everybody just got calm because like the 3 kids arguing and fighting can cause a lot of tension, and people are just trying to have their summer vacation kind of thing, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Everybody just wants to relax. The neighbors don't want to hear that, nobody. So by stepping out of the whole thing and just pulling myself out of that whole situation, I noticed right away like this calm spread throughout the whole like yard, like our whole like lot of our cottage, which was really cool. And yeah, whenever things would get all heated and that, I'd be like, okay, I'm out, see you guys later. I'm gonna go meditate. And that's pretty much where it started.
Well, imagine what kind of world it would be if more children had those types of experiences.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
To learn that we can do that for ourselves too at such a young age. Like we can actually choose to take control of a situation and change it.
Yeah.
Just by stopping the fight.
Yeah. That's kind of I guess the learning experience that I take from the whole thing is the ability to change your surroundings. Like it doesn't have to be the way that it is. And through that, maybe it's not fighting, maybe it's some other issue that comes up, maybe it's not even an issue, maybe it's just something happening that you're like, I don't really like this. You can start to learn ways to change things within this universe that we live in, and learning that as a young child, I guess, is very beneficial than trying to pound that into like an old 40-year-old man's head, like, you need to meditate, sir, pound this in. Like, no, it's not always the best route. But if we could get more meditation classes implemented into our schools, maybe we would see great benefits for sure.
Well, young minds have more like neuroplasticity. The programming and conditioning gets stronger with age and time, not weaker. So you can definitely see and it's the same thing, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, although that's not necessarily true, but certainly younger minds are more flexible and more apt. And I think sometimes as we age, we just kind of stop learning, or we lose that sort of passion, that interest, that wonderment that children have because everything's new for them. Well, when it's not new anymore, when things become routine, we kind of get shut down, I think, and sort of jaded.
Yeah.
Patterns become strong.
For some reason, I never lost my thirst for knowledge. Like, I'm constantly reading, learning, taking courses, podcasts. I burn through about 40 hours of podcasts every week. It just never ends. And through learning, that keeps you young and keeps you healthy. And I think it keeps that plasticity plastic, I guess, moldable. I don't know what the word is.
Malleable, flexible.
There we go.
Yeah, stretchy.
Stretchy, trendy. It's yoga for the brain, man. Brain yoga.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. It keeps us engaged with life. But then there's also the other extreme, too. Some people get so stuck in the learning phase of things that they're sort of addicted to that dopamine response that we get from learning new things, and sometimes it can keep us from actually taking actions. Or just the process of learning so much makes us feel like we'll never know enough to start whatever it is that we're trying to work towards acting on, which I find is also an interesting dynamic, sort of the addicted to insight thing. I see a lot of people in the truther communities and stuff that I feel like have this going on.
Oh my God. The truther community. Woo. It's good and it's bad. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. There's good stuff in there, but it's unfortunate that it's so entrenched in so much weird woo-woo stuff that is based on really poor science. I lost where I was going with that. Right.
It's a big topic.
So I find I get caught in that too, where I'm learning a bunch of stuff and I'm learning it all, and then it's so what? How are you going to take this and bring it back to the world? How are you going to implement this into your own life, into your friends' lives? How are you going to share this with other people? And it's not even always just about sharing it. It's about actually implementing it and finding ways to implement it into life for you and for everyone. So I find that happens a lot. I'll just read and read and read, and it's wow, yeah. And like you said, that dopamine hit, yes, give me more, yes. And then, ha, now let's watch some Netflix. So you can't.
I mean, that's the response that sells the self-help industry, right? All these books that give you just enough to keep you coming back, and not ever enough to actually start implementing and applying whatever it is.
I've seen this because they call it. I worked in marketing. I had a marketing company in Moncton for a while, and it's called the squeeze. It's a squeeze funnel. And this has been going on since the days of newsprint, since any kind of print started. It's a squeeze funnel. And they just squeeze you until you finally get down to the end where you're forced to make a decision of like, yes, do you like breathing? Oh, of course I do. Do you like walking? I love to walk. Wouldn't you like to breathe and walk better? Well, yeah, that would be good, and they butter you up and they make you feel real good. And then at the end, it's like, just sign up here, $99.99 a month, because we like pennies. And it just and then it transformed over into the internet, and I would see these squeeze pages that they started calling them, and it was the same thing. You would scroll and you're reading all this wonderful, self-help or whatever the heck they're trying to sell you, and you would read it, and then at the end you'd feel so good and you're all buttered up again, and again, $99.99 a month, sign up here, woo, and you click on it, and that's it. You're locked in for a year.
Oh, I love that stuff. I mean, it is what it is too. I'm a direct response copywriter. I also work in marketing as a consultant and a business developer. So that's like right up my alley. And it's so interesting the way these things are constructed and the way they influence our mind and our decision-making process without our noticing, especially through like the use of language, like those examples you were giving of pacing and leading. Basically making paces are like statements that are true, that it doesn't take any energy for you to agree with. So do you like walking? Yeah, sure. Are you hungry right now? Yeah, it could be, or whatever. Maybe that's not the best example.
No,
but then it all goes to the lead, which is something you want to do, or you want them to do, or they want us to buy, whatever. So it's conditioning the brain as you're reading through that copy. Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. True, true, true. And the brain's lazy.
Yeah.
So once it does that a couple times, it just starts to naturally accept whatever's going to come towards the end. Then they start hitting the leads, the actions.
Huh.
So it's like this whole conditioning process built right into there. I'm sure you know about a lot of that too, which I find it's just a fascinating world of language and influence.
Right. I got into marketing because of graphic design. So my stepfather had a print shop. And so I worked in the print shop from the time I was 13, learning everything about printing. And then I became the graphic designer. And then I had to learn about marketing and layout and iFlow and kind of all the the dirty things is what it started to really eat away at my soul. And what made me not like it, manipulating someone's mind through the use of light or color or sound or texture and things like that. And then I started to feel, I'm like, man, how much of this is going on everywhere in the world every day? I'm like, do I even really want that bottle of Pepsi that's next to my desk? And I started questioning literally every purchase I've ever made. And when I really would go back to my core values, I found out that, 90% of the garbage I was buying and consuming, I didn't even really want it. It was all just, it had been forced upon me through the use of these tactics. And now I'm being asked to go out and recreate these same tactics and use them for other companies' advantages. So that's kind of where I got jaded and cynical with the whole advertising and marketing world, and I kind of stepped away from it from there and stopped working in it. I mean, I still do a little bit of graphic design for friends of mine, but that's about it. How do you feel about things like that?
Well, my passionate feeling about that is that people should be aware. Consumers should be aware. We should have, I feel like media education and public relations education should be a part of our curriculum starting way young, because you're right, it is everywhere and it's everything. And we are being stimulated in ways beyond what most people could even start to imagine, whether it's through the ads or, through the media industry, music. It's really a huge thing. I could kind of put it all under the umbrella of mind control, which is another really interesting area. But I like what you said when you mentioned your core values, because I feel like core values and having those and establishing those as individuals is basically the way to create fulfillment and meaning in our life. something that my life has brought me to realizing the last year or two. Like, without those values, there is no compass.
No.
And that's not something that someone else can give to us.
No, it's not. And I mean, I know there's tons of exercises online. People can look them up on how to find your core values. There's questions you can ask and go through and everything like that. But I just want to mention too here before we get too far away from this. So from knowing what all of these different advertising techniques were, I kind of found a way to completely block out all advertising. So like I would now walk through the mall and none of these things are affecting me anymore because I know what they are. I've conquered them, so to speak. And the downside to all of this is that I miss out on all the really good deals.
Yeah.
Like I don't see them. So like I said, that neighbor whose car is for sale, you know, and I'm looking to buy a car, like I don't see it because I've blocked out the red and yellow, you know, I blocked out the black and yellow, the black and red. I just see it. I'm just like, oh, more trying to get me to buy something again. So that there is a downside to not having advertising. I mean, there's a point for it. It's there for a purpose because, you know, you need something. Well, we provide that. How else can you communicate that without putting a sign up on the front of your building? I mean, and I think that's where the morality comes in. That's where the difference is. Putting a sign up on your building, maybe sending out some flyers saying, hey, we're here, this is what we do. But when it gets into like you said, mind control and messing with people's psyches, that's, I think, the step too far for me anyways.
Yeah, and getting back to your question about how I kind of put that together in my mind, I skirt around the guilt by basically using the skills and the knowledge that I have. I only work with people that I want to work with. So my friends or other business owners are like, I'm most interested in helping people who help people. So I kind of try and be the good Jedi of marketing, and I support the businesses. I've been lucky I've been able to do that as like, you know, a contractor and then as a business owner myself. So it's a little bit different if you're in sort of a boutique agency situation and the client's the client. Whether you like them, whether you lump them, you got to do the work.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, she's working for my stepfather's print shop. We had a lot of that too, where you would like get people in who you don't agree with. You don't agree with their morals or values, but like, you know, their money's as green as anyone else's, so you'd end up taking it and doing the work. And I mean, I like where I'm at now because of, like I said too, I do all this for my friends and family and stuff, or just people that I believe in their cause or believe in what they're doing. And yeah, but I think you need to go through, you need to get your feet wet in the mud before you can go swim in a beautiful lake. Before you can get into the lake, you got to walk through the mud and the dirt and then clean yourself off. And I feel like a lot of people probably go through that.
Yeah, and even, you know, lakes have leeches too. The difficulty doesn't end when you find your ideal place. You know, there's layers of challenges no matter whatever area of life brings us in. There's always going to be a new challenge and a new difficulty, and people are people too, and personalities clash, and that is non-industry specific or non-topic specific. Whenever two people or more are having to get together and accomplish something, it's going to be challenging at times. So something we all have to deal with, I guess. And then again, having those values in place, I just feel like that's so important in giving us the sense of internal direction and being able to pay attention to that little yes and the little no. And also being able to be subtle, so recognizing if the no is just a fear thing, and, you know, if we're going to go in a direction that sometimes the no is actually no, just I'm afraid of doing this, but it's still a good thing to do. So there's a lot of subtleties in managing, you know, how we navigate through work and life.
Right. Yeah, so like, I don't know. Like I said, it's all part of the life game of living and learning, experiencing things, and I don't know. Myself, I am one of those people who learns through experience. Like when my dad said, don't put your hand on the stove, it's hot, I curled my lip up and I had this evil grin and I went over and slammed my two hands down on the stove and I screamed. But you know what? I never did that again. Some people learn, you know, vocally through like words, auditorily. Some people read and learn, and some people just need to live and learn. And I'm definitely a live and learn. And visual.
And that's
good.
another thing, not being afraid to make those mistakes. I mean, how many times do we not attempt something because we don't want to fail at it? You know, making mistakes is part of the game, and it's part of developing character.
Yeah, if you don't fail, you're never going to get anywhere. I mean, people who got places failed and failed and failed. And if you're not failing at least once a week, then you're not trying enough. That's what I would say. And I'm just trying to think right now, what's something that I could be failing at, like a little bit. And I joined, it's like a 5-day, I can't even explain what it is. It's through the Flow Genome Project. So these people are hacking the flow state. So they found different ways. So like in the depths, for me, in the depths of a yoga class, after like an hour into a yoga class, I'll enter this flow state. Body and mind have been merged and have become one. And you're just at one with the universe, and this amazing feeling of everything. Your head is up in the sky, but your feet are planted down in the earth at the same time. And they found a way at the Flow Genome Project to hack into this flow state. So they're doing like a 5-day, I don't know, it's a group of people doing these different exercises and projects. And so today I was like, did I really do that to the fullest? Probably not. I could have done a little more. I could have did like a full hour yoga instead of just cutting it at a half hour. I could have did the 300 workout like they suggested instead of not doing it. So you know what? Little minor failures like that, I just take note of it. And then throughout the rest of my day, I'm taking note of like, you know what? I probably wouldn't have had this pain that I'm feeling right now had I have done all that extra stretching this morning. There's one of the failure things coming back to haunt me later on. So definitely good to fail.
It's great to find your flow too. Do you do any like flow arts or performance prop manipulation things like poi or staff or any of those fun activities that elicit flow state?
I'm really not too hand-eye coordinated. I've never played any sports. I've never been good at sports because I had asthma growing up, so I couldn't run and do a lot of the stuff. Really good at downhill skiing, but that's where it ends. And then yoga. Yoga is my sport. So maybe ecstatic dance. I could just flail about like a fool. That would be great. Like rave dancing that I do to like drum and bass. That's a lot of fun. But that's about it. No, I draw and I do art. But that's not, I don't really enter a flow state or anything when I'm drawing. I mean, drawing to me is work. It's a challenge. It's a chore. It's something I do for money. It's not like a happy, fun place. It's not creative and expressive. It's more, well, I got to get this done. Well, I got to get another one done. Well, I got to get another one done after this. And so no, I would have to say no. What about you? Are you a yogi or anything? What's your deal?
Not so much a yogi, but I do some flow arts for sure. I started spinning poi, 6 years ago. More recently, I picked up contact staff and double staff. A little bit of devil sticks, circus stuff. So in the summertime, we do some fire performances around the Maritimes through a couple of circus organizations. I have a group as well, Vesta, Women of Fire and Light. We are a little fire trio. So yeah, so I'm really interested in those flow states, and there's a lot of recorded medical benefits for those. There's some research actually came out last year, I believe. A girl in New Zealand did it. You know what poi is, eh? I'm talking like the two weights on a cord or a tether, and you're spinning them around.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they light them on fire for the fire poi.
And sometimes we light them on fire, yeah. Ooh. So that kind of comes from the New Zealand area traditionally. So there's this girl who did some academic research for her PhD with senior populations, and she had a test group doing Tai Chi for a certain amount of time and a test group doing poi. And she found that they had similar benefits for increasing coordination, improving memory, stability, general happiness, well-being. She measured a bunch of different areas for this. And I would connect all those benefits with the flow state, that state of non-thinking that we can get into when we're really engaged in an activity.
Right.
Which is essentially how I would define it, and maybe you're working with a different definition.
No, it's definitely like that. the other correlation I have, and geez, I've already talked about this in like another podcast, but whatever, the stuff, it cycles through and around. I was in a rap crew, so like performing like rap songs on stage, I would go into this flow state, and it was the exact same feeling like doing yoga, only you're on stage and you know your mind and your mouth is going a mile a minute and you're rapping, but you're kind of having this out of body experience at the same time. Like you're looking around, you're like, oh, there's Carl and his new girlfriend, and oh, look, there's somebody over at the bar, and I'm kind of thirsty. I wish I would brought another bottle of water up here. Meanwhile, your mouth is like and you're just going off, and somehow then you come back into your body and you're like, whoa, geez, what was that all about? So that's a really interesting. That's kind of like one of the only correlations I have with flow state, other than yoga.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think, like, for me, even though I have meditated for a long time and I practice a silent meditation, so it's not like listening to audio recordings or anything really stimulating from the outside, but I find it's easier to get into that sort of non-thinking, no dilemma space through like physical activities like poi or staff or anything that's really repetitive like that kind of eventually just shuts the mind off. So it's another way kind of to have the same effect.
Right. Like like runners and joggers, I hear, get that. They kind of enter into that state after about an hour of running too.
Yeah, there's all different, and I think engaging the body as well is really important anytime we're trying to change our state. Even going back to like the idea of grounding, or if someone's having like an immediate crisis like an anxiety attack or something, we can actually change our physiology. There's a TED talk by a lady named Amy Cuddy, talks about this, called power poses. So you can do like a Wonder Woman pose or a victory pose with your arm in the air, hold that for about 2 minutes, and it actually increases the level of testosterone production in the body, and our state will change if we change our posture, our physiology.
Just from the posture.
A depressed person would be curled up and contracted, or if we're angry, we're contracted, we're covering ourselves. So literally just opening up that physical posture changes the mental and emotional activity, which is quite interesting.
I've been doing earthing and grounding for the last like couple weeks, at least 20 minutes every day. So I totally feel the benefits from that. And I mean, you feel it work. It probably takes 15 to 20 minutes for it to kick in. So that's why I try and do it at least 20 minutes. Just walking around bare feet on the earth. At one point, I was just kind of sitting outside, and I dug a little hole in the flower garden and stuck my feet down in the hole and sat there in a lawn chair and listened to podcasts, and walking the dog through the dog park. I mean, it sounds gross because you might step in something, but feet are a lot easier to wash than shoes are to wash. The little grooves in the shoes in the bottom. And yeah.
So what kind of benefits have you noticed from that?
Well, I've noticed first of all, I'm always in my head. I'm always up in the air. I'm a daydreamer. I'm a Pisces, so I'm always just up, very watery, kind of woo. And I notice that it brings me back down, brings me back into this present moment. So whereas normally when I'm walking the dog, I'm just like, my mind is off somewhere else, thinking about, and it's not always thinking about like, most people think about the past or the future or whatever. I'm dreaming up a new way that a dragon might look, like I'm never in where I am. And I've noticed that the grounding brings me back. For one reason, I don't want to step on something sharp. There's a lot of pine cones and sticks and things like that. So you're constantly more aware because of the feeling, simply the feeling, the pain that you'll get in your foot. That keeps you more centered and grounded. A little bit of an energy spike I noticed, and a little bit of so I have stopped using cannabis. I mean, I was like for the last 15 years, I was like a hardcore cannabis user, like all day, every day kind of guy. And I've now gone back just to like doing it once a month. So I have everything regulated in a sense. And when I go out and do the earthing, I kind of get this like the colors look brighter, the air smells a little sweeter, like you're more in tune with everything around you. You can hear the birds a little better. Everything is just more crisp. So that's probably the benefits that I've seen so far.
Yeah, like a greater association with the senses, and it kind of brings things to life.
Definitely. Yeah,
I think there's a lot to that. And a lot of us don't spend as much time, outdoors, especially young people. I was commenting to a friend the other day, just driving through the neighborhood on the way out to the main road, and just like, you never see kids here. There's a playground. and contrasting that to when I was a kid, like we were never indoors.
Oh, I know.
But I grew up without the internet until age 13, so thinking about how much things have changed in that sense and how disconnected we are just from, the ground and our body.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when they started pulling stuff out of the parks. Like, there was this, they said it was because of people were getting hurt, but I mean, that was kind of the beginning of it all. Kids were getting hurt because we were being bubble wrapped, and we were being, coddled a little too much. So I remember this, and you probably remember this too. It was like a round thing that spins, and 5 or 6 kids could get on it, and someone could run and spin it like a merry-go-round kind of thing. And it had totally. These handlebars on it that kind of were shaped in starting from the center, they went out in kind of like pie slices. These bars that you could hang on to.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those are fun.
Yeah, and so
everyone got hurt on one of those.
Yeah, and because of people like me, I had the idea. I was like, I know, I'm gonna get a rope. I'm gonna tie a rope to my bike because I can bike a lot faster than I can push this thing. So I tied the rope to my bike, and I got a bunch of kids in the park. They all got on it, and we started going. And the kids, we're talking little kids, were hanging on for dear life. And their little feet are dangling out the edge, and kids were letting go and going flying 20 feet off into the field. So, I mean, I know I contributed to that actual merry-go-round being pulled out of there, but I saw them, systematically getting taken out of all the parks. And then they started taking away the swings, the tall swings that went too high, or where you could jump off and hurt yourself. Now they're just little swings. They got rid of the slides. They got rid of the monkey bars. They got rid of everything. And I know it's because there's a park right by my house, and I look at it and I'm like, what is this cheap plastic made, this is for a 2-year-old, and that's about it. No wonder nobody's here playing on it, because it looks like it's made for babies. So,
right, yeah.
What was it like? You said you've done psychic readings. I'm kind of interested in that. What?
Oh my!
What kind of tarot card readings, or reading palms? Did you have a crystal ball? What was happening?
No crystal ball. Actually, it's interesting. I started meditating when I was 21 or so, and I met a friend who introduced me to meditation, and his sales pitch back in the day was I had an interest in developing a psychic ability at that time. So this was quite a while ago, and he's like, oh, well, if you meditate, you'll get that. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. So it wasn't really a deep spiritual yearning or a really altruistic desire to improve myself that brought me into meditation. In the beginning, it was just yeah, it'd be really cool to be have those type of powers and gifts.
Right.
And it's well, try meditation. I was like, okay. So that was my lead in, and in fact, meditation did that. It did. Maybe more than I was ready for in certain ways, but I was able to sort of channel it into a couple years later. I learned a lot about the chakras and the elements.
Right.
And I designed a 64 card deck based on a system of archetypes, chakras, and elements.
So wait a second.
I like to draw as well. So.
You designed your own deck?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was in 2010, although I never did complete it. good at starting things, but I got 64 cards in.
Yeah.
And then I was working for a health and wellness trade show. Around that time, I started working for the trade show, and then it was very natural. Every time we had a show, I had the opportunity to have a booth.
Right.
And I promoted meditation because one of my really good friends was a teacher of meditation, and eventually I just started doing readings. So did readings for hundreds of people, the trade show, and then I would kind of do it as a side hustle, mostly if I needed a little extra cash, because it was never something I wanted to do as a career, but it was something I had the opportunity and the ability to do, so I just did. But then I don't do it so much anymore. I later got certified in emotional fitness coaching, which is a listening-based thing instead of a speaking-at-based thing.
Right.
And I just found that so much more effective and powerful in helping people, although a lot less people are interested in that kind of service because they have to do some of the work there.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of stopped doing readings because of that.
Huh. So in the world of emotional fitness, what sort of a thing do you like coach them on? Like to get my emotions more in shape? I'm just reading it literally here.
That's what it's called, this specific modality, but it's basically a reflective listening modality. It was created by a guy named Warren Redman, who we're really lucky. He lives here in Shediac. He's from England originally, and he's retired here in Shediac. And there's a few emotional fitness coaches in the area who are sort of picking up that stick and carrying the work on here. But it's listening based. So the idea behind emotional fitness is we only go where you take us as the speaker, as the client. It is client focused and directed. So it's based on the premise that we all have the answers that we need to our own questions and the solutions that we need to our own problems. And the listening process facilitates us to be able to find those things through hearing ourselves.
Right.
So my job as a coach is basically as a skilled listener. And there are 9 different processes to help elicit, and stimulate those answers. But it's a really unique form of coaching because I don't coach per se. I follow.
Right. Do you, so like a listening skill that I use sometimes, especially doing podcasts, is that I'll take little notes as people are saying things because I need to cycle back to them again. And that really helps. And I often wish that I had a keyboard in front of me at all times during the day when I'm out speaking with people, because I mean, I could have a notepad, but that would just be kind of weird and awkward. You're at a cash somewhere at checkout and the cashier starts telling you a story and you pull out a notepad. So that would be really cool. And I mean, we also live in this world today, for some weird reason, people are only listening to respond. So people are just listening for keywords and key points, and then they're going to immediately start going into some inner diatribe about the thing that they're going to respond with again, about something that you said. You're talking about doing push-ups and you mentioned something about the elbow bending, and they start thinking about the time they banged their funny bone. Well, the two don't really line up, right? So it kind of...
It's that transderivational search again.
Yeah, it throws a monkey wrench in the whole conversation and the whole communication method.
Absolutely. So the idea behind emotional fitness and reflective listening techniques in general is that if you stay with the person who's actually trying to communicate something and you help them fully explore it, and one of the keys is giving them their own words back. So that can be done in 2 ways. Like you're talking about the idea of writing things down as you hear people saying them. It's the most powerful words we can hear are the words we just said. So literally, that's the echo technique. You want to build instant rapport with anyone? Just repeat what they say. It sounds silly. It sounds a little crazy, but honestly, play with this. It's really cool. People will just open up when they hear their own words. And then the other part is you can kind of take what they've said and give it back to them in your words and your interpretation. That also works. It helps them to hear what they're saying. But it's a little extra effort on the mind to have to translate from your language back into theirs. So really the power technique is using the speaker's words as much as possible. And that builds the rapport as we start to hear ourselves through the listening process. We start to get what we're saying. Right. How many times have you heard someone talk about a problem 100 million times and they never get to the solution? So often it's because, exactly like you said, they've been cut off, shut down somewhere in that expression process, and they never really get to stay with what they're trying to express.
Right.
because we all want to get our piece in.
We all want to get our piece in. See what I did there?
Yes, exactly. And it opened me up. Yeah.
Something that I find interesting, that there's a few of my friends who, when I'm having conversations with them, and they don't like it for whatever reason, but I don't know, I just find that, so like, for example, you say something and I say something from my life that relates to that back to them, right? This is, to me, that's a valid form of communication, but I have friends who just hate it that I do that. They hate that, they'll be like, oh, man, I ran my car into a stop sign today. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Like, I remember the time I ran into a snowbank and it had a stone surface underneath the snowbank. And they look at me like, would you shut up? Like, we're talking about me here, kind of thing. So I know there's different ways of communicating, and I feel like, for me, that's what has worked best for me my entire life. Relate back to people, something from your own life, your own experience, back to them. Let them know that they're not alone in whatever troubles it is that they're having.
There's that, and there's definitely, I guess it depends like what the intention is or what the desired effect you want from the communication. And then there's the element is if you give them back what they're saying. Oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. What are we talking about? Okay, so hey, I ran into the stop sign today.
Right.
Instead of saying, oh, that sucks, I ran into a stop sign once, you'd be like, oh, hey, you ran into a stop sign today. What was that like for you? What was that like?
Right.
And then they'll continue. They'll have a chance to unpack whatever's behind them wanting to, because we don't say things because for no reason, basically. We kind of spit out what's on our mind.
Right. So you kind of want to probe deeper into the issue rather than relate right away.
Yeah, if you want to help them get over it or get it out.
Yeah.
And then because I remember what I was going to say. It's the feeling heard and validated that really makes us feel like we're not alone.
Right. I don't know. I've always felt that at the same time that I am validating them, by like explaining that, like, yeah, I've been there. I'm with you, man. It's all good. And I mean, I do try and get deeper into whatever the story is. I think I just made that up about a stop sign.
Yeah, that's a good example. And it depends on the scenario too. I mean, if you're just shooting the shit with your buds, like, whatever.
Yeah.
You're not always trying to have a therapeutic mindset about it, right?
Right. But
if you notice that if someone's presenting you something and it's distressing them in some way, that might be a good time to like start activating the listening power a little bit and let them get it out.
Yeah.
They'll feel better. We feel better when we're heard. That's just human nature. It's quite incredible what happens just from listening to people in a meaningful way.
Huh. Yeah. Geez, I don't know. How do you change the world that's going in this, like, they're listening only to respond? Like, how do we get out of that at this point? I mean, I feel like it's gotten so entrenched in the way that everybody is. Or maybe I'm just hanging out with the wrong people.
Oh, well, I don't know. I think like all of the technological communication that we do doesn't help, The face-to-face interaction thing is kind of going out of style, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, geez.
And there's so many shortcuts that we take if we're texting or if we're primarily, communicating in a non, face-to-face, heart-to-heart sort of way.
Yeah.
So I think those skills are going down, actually.
I feel even weird doing this podcast this way because this is my 4th podcast I've done, and every other one I've done live in person. I've always had my guest right here in the studio with me. So this is a new way of doing it. And I mean, when someone's there with you, you can see their facial features, you can see their eye twitching when they lie, you can see them fidgeting when they don't know something. There's all these tells, there's physical tells when someone is like trying to bullshit you about something. Or if they're getting upset, they're like, oh, maybe they don't like what you're talking about, and they put their head down in their hands. I don't know if you can hear my...
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. How do you change the world with that, I think, we have to actually give a shit about each other, to genuinely care about other people, and not in a codependent way, in a way that, like, giving service to the people around us and improving every area of life that we interact with is part of our core values.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Geez, I've only been talking to you, let's see, 53 minutes, and I care about you. I care about your opinion. You're nice enough to do the show. I mean, I don't understand why we all can't have the same kind of compassion for everyone all the time. And, like, why does it always have to be associated with someone who's doing something for you, or someone who is a neighbor, or someone who is involved more in your life? Why can't we have that same compassion for the grocery clerk, the gas attendant, someone you meet at the dog park? You can probably hear the beagle here. She's making some whiny noises. Hey,
I can hear. That's cute.
This is little Molly.
Yeah, and
Molly
that's another question. Why can't we? What is it that stops us from, being able to respond kindly to people just because they're there, and not because we're expecting some type of reciprocal return? And it's not to say, like, everyone's like that. It's not to say everyone's miserable or anything. These are very sort of general statements, but I think it kind of boils down to, we're all so stressed out, and, like, collectively we don't have good coping mechanisms to be able to deal with what's going on inside of ourselves. Yeah. And a lot of it's repressed down, and we're all kind of just walking around tense.
Yeah.
And you see people who are walking around, and you see people explode over such a small thing, or like road rage is a simple example. Oh. What's going on in that person that if they accidentally get cut off, that they're losing their mind, So I think that's where that sort of, we're in protective mode, self-protection mode, which makes us feel like, we could be threatened by these people that we don't know, or anyone in general, just because we're stressed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to work on that theory.
For me, road rage is like a big one, because, and I'm not trying to, like, validate my road rage or anything, but I get the road rage. I've been meditating forever. I do all the things there are to do to stay cool, calm, and collected, but I've given myself it's almost like it's my cheat. It's my one time that I'm allowed to cheat. And I don't drive very much. I don't even own a car right now, so driving's not even like a big thing. It's a once in a while thing. But as soon as I sit behind that wheel, and as soon as somebody gets in front of me, the critic mind comes in, like, oh, why didn't you put your signal light on fast enough? Oh, why are you taking such a wide turn? Why didn't you stop for that kid? Why? And the anger wells up in me, but I know it is, and I recognize it, and I like it. And that's the weird thing, that I that's why I say, like, it's my cheat. It's my one cheat thing that I get out of life. And I mean, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm in my own car. I'm in a closed-in box. Nobody can hear the cuss words that I'm yelling out at everybody. And the thing with me is that, and I think with a lot of people, is that when you get mad, you can get mad at somebody else, but when you get mad at yourself, you get, like, really mad. And I've seen this a lot with a lot of people. So, but I don't know. I've seen it, but I'm not sure. Like, I know it's with me for sure, but when I get mad at myself, like, if you were to knock this glass of water over off my desk, I would politely be like, no, it's okay, and I would go get a towel and clean it up. But if I knocked the glass of water off, holy shit, the rage is coming out. Jay, you bleeping idiot, this and that, and the cavalcade of cuss words just comes through the atmosphere. So I feel like that's my road rage, that's my time to let it all out. And it's not like I build it up all over through the month. Oh, I can't wait to go driving one day to let my rage out. It's not like that. It just happens to be, I will randomly drive once in a while. And as soon as I do, it's just like, Jekyll and Hyde behind the wheel, which is kind of a weird thing, because I'm just so nice and friendly all the other times, and cool, calm, collected, grounded. Yeah.
So what is it, the part that you like about that? Is it just getting to release it? Having that cheat space?
Yeah, the cheat space. Just being, I could take it out on a punching bag at the gym. I could do anything. But I do all these things already, and it doesn't come out. But it's just something about being behind the wheel. Maybe it's because of the preconditioning of my whole life. Watching my parents have road rage and everyone I know ever having road rage. So maybe it just be a little bit of leftover stuff like that. I don't know. I wouldn't say it feels good, but it just becomes, it's like another character emerges kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting the way we respond to life. So those are the kinds of things people bring to emotional fitness, anger problems, or, sometimes people are having a difficult time choosing the way they respond to whatever stimulus, like if the kid does something or whatever and you're flying off the handle, and a lot of people are like, hey, I can't control this response and I don't want to be this way. And, the other parts of it too, like having those lingering questions or possibly negative associations with events in early life and trying to piece together, okay, why am I the way I am? I mean, that's like what a lot of people's questions kind of boil down to, is like, why am I like this? And I think that's what a lot attracts people to readings, to psychics, is wanting someone to give them the answer.
Yeah.
But we don't always, we don't always value what we're given for free or what we're given easily like that, So that's why I prefer emotional fitness. Is I find my clients who are willing to put the time in and willing to explore themselves, they're the ones who get results. Whereas my clients who came for readings, I mean, they were always good. We always left feeling uplifted. But there's just that sense of like, did I really help them?
Huh.
Yeah. And I just think in the end, we help ourselves so much more powerfully than, someone else stepping in who isn't living in our situation, who isn't looking behind our eyes. We can give advice and stuff, but when we come to the conclusion ourselves, we tend to listen. Sometimes we just need a listener, which is the fun part.
Can I get you to hold for a quick sec?
Sure.
Hypnosis. Wow. You know what? I have always been so super interested in hypnosis ever since I was a little kid, and my dad brought me and my brother to see The Great Ravine. I don't know if you remember that guy.
I've heard of him, yes.
His son has taken up the family company, I guess, and his son does it now under the same name, Ravine. Okay. And they look alike. It was in Moncton at not the Coliseum. What's the theater downtown in Moncton where they do?
The Capitol Theater.
The Capitol Theater, yeah. So it was there, and he had the whole audience doing hilarious things. Like, we're talking like, I would say 80% of the audience was hypnotized doing stuff, and it didn't work on me. And I was so upset that it didn't work on me. I was like, I wanted to be hypnotized. I wanted to do the things everyone else was doing. I wanted to cluck like a chicken. I wanted to do all this, but it just never clicked. And I've tried to be hypnotized several times, and it just doesn't take. And I don't know why. Can't figure it out. I guess I just have that kind of a brain that I know some people, it doesn't work on them. And then when I started teaching yoga, certified teaching yoga, you write these meditations for the end, for Shavasana, right? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I noticed that when I was experiencing these so-called meditations from other teachers, from the training, from school, I was like, this seems a lot like hypnosis. So when I started writing my own Shavasana meditations, I studied hypnotists on YouTube and listened to the way that they talked on almost a metronome kind of beat. And I followed that, and wow, I was like hypnotizing rooms of people in at the end of my yoga classes, which was really cool because I was like, be sure to come back and leave a big tip at the door.
Yeah, well, we're all sort of in a state of trance most of the time, so it's not hard to influence people in that way if you know how. Now, I'm not a certified hypnotist, but it's something I've been studying for a long time, and I'm saving, because I have my eye on David Snyder. So if you're interested in hypnosis and NLP, he's second NLP trainer in the world. He has over 200 videos on YouTube, and I'm just eating up his stuff like crazy for the last few months. What a great teacher of these techniques, and he gives so much of it away.
So, just so everybody at home knows, NLP is Neuro Linguistic Programming. I had to look that up because you had sent me NLP before.
Right. It's the way that it's kind of going back to what we were talking about marketing and language, and the way that certain words have an effect on the subconscious mind, just because they do. It's universal in language, and it's something we're all susceptible to. So absolutely, if you want to use powerful hypnotic techniques, having the language structure that reinforces that and that naturally lulls people into trance. So there's even simple little tricks of making language more hypnotic, and copywriters know this. Good ones do.
Yeah.
So, even just putting your adjectives before the subject. Like the shiny bright ball instead of the ball was bright and shiny.
The shiny bright ball.
It has to do with the way you're creating images in the other person's mind. So that's why, to elaborate on that example, when you hear shiny bright ball, you get that the ball is shiny and bright. It kind of all comes together, right? If you think of a ball, in your mind, you could think of any type of ball, and then it's going to be shiny and bright after. So that's extra effort expended on your mind to add those qualities to the image that you're creating in your mind. It's not something we do consciously. It's something that happens. As soon as we hear ball, we think of a ball.
Yeah. So yeah, when you say ball, I think of like a basketball or a baseball, which are very not shiny. But when you say shiny and bright, those two words, immediately in my mind, I'm thinking like sun rays, bright, shiny, reflective, sparkly things, chrome, all this kind of imagery goes through my mind. And then you say ball, and then I'm like, wow, there's a chrome ball like floating there in my mind now. It's not, a dull basketball. So it works.
Exactly. So if I was trying to sort of get you to come along with me, if I said, ball, and you thought of a basketball, and then I add shiny and bright, then on a subtle level, your mind's kind of going like, what? And that's energy that it takes to change the picture that you have. So it would not as naturally lead you into a state of trance. So it's just like little language techniques like that. But there's obviously a lot to it.
Very interesting. Yeah, so I know it goes really deep, and but I didn't know that, things like that, just the simple word structure of where to place adjectives, nouns, and verbs.
Yeah, and the sort of cadence and the tones, things like you were saying, like the way we use our voice, and not just to be monotone the whole time, but knowing how to include variations in the tone and stuff, how to inject interrupts. These are concepts in marketing that also apply in hypnosis and when you're dealing with trance. That's why it all falls together for me. Like, mind control is the game.
Right.
On pretty much every level, whether it's marketing and consumerism, whether it's looking at society, trends, there's always some pull trying to influence our minds. And I just feel like a lot of us are operating so deeply ingrained in those patterns and conditions from the past that we're just not aware of how we're being influenced. And having that awareness, you can't change something you're not aware of. So I feel like this education should be part of the curriculum, I feel like people have a right to understand how our minds work. And of course the information is available and we can look for it, but there's no importance placed on that. And that's the tragedy. Yeah,
definitely. Geez. You should definitely...
Sorry, I just went on a diatribe.
No, that was great. I was just I was in the trance of what you were saying. You should definitely... You should have your own podcast, for sure. That would be so cool if you talked about this kind of stuff, on a regular basis with, I don't know, clients or just guests and things like that. That would be so cool. And I think you'd mentioned that.
Well, funny you should mention that. I am starting a podcast. I'm a member of the Business Coach Atlantic network of business development experts. So this is going to be a business-themed podcast. I'm going to brand it to our coaching network. But my intention is to speak with business owners and get in their minds and pull out what is really turning their crank. So I feel like this makes for the best conversation, which I'm sure you would agree. If you can figure out what someone's really interested in, what really gets them excited and passionate.
Right.
Podcasting is the easiest thing in the world.
Right. And
or conversing.
the greatest thing that I would like to know is how do you get inspired? Because I don't understand my own inspiration for things. Like, shit just happens and I have to do it, and I can't replicate it again. It's not like, oh, it's because you were sitting cross-legged and to the east and the sun was midday. Like, there's no replication, there's no way to recreate inspiration for me. And it's funny because, like, when you read about like trying to get your life together, they always say, like, find what inspires you and do that. And when you do what you love, it's not really work. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you even get inspired? Like, what inspires people? And then I'll read things and it's like, oh, I get inspired by a good movie. And I'm like, movies don't inspire me. Music doesn't inspire me. Like, I really am very uninspired. And when it does hit, it's just out of the blue, out of nowhere, out of left field. It's just like, kapow. Like, one day I was like, I need to start another podcast. Why? I don't know. I just have to. What's it going to be about? I don't know. I'm just going to start it and start doing it and just start recording people. It'll all work itself out somehow. I just knew that. And slowly but surely, here we are. It's all working out. I would hope so anyways. I hope you're enjoying it at your end anyways.
I'm having fun. It seems like you are.
Yeah, for sure. So
what are the conditions that are in place when those inspirations hit? Like, it just comes out of nowhere, nothing?
That's it. It's just out of the blue. Like,
there's no pattern?
There's no pattern. It's not anything I ate. It's not anything I did. It's not anything that anybody talked to me about. Like, inspiration just hits, and I just got to do it. And there's no stopping me when those times hit. Something hit me over just after Christmas. I started drawing, and you can find this art project on my website on jcoleyoga.ca. Go down to the bottom and you can find this cool art project. I just had to draw. I had to draw these pictures, and they're not really pictures about anything. It's not like I was like, oh, I need to do a series of covered bridges from New Brunswick or anything like that. It was just, I had to draw these things and get them out. And even the drawings themselves are not pre-planned at all. I start with a line on the page, a little squiggle, and then another squiggle, and another squiggle. And next thing you know, oh, look, it kind of looks like it might be a cloud. You might see a cloud. Someone else might see a gust of air. So everyone sees something different. So there's just all this weird stuff going on these pages. And I just had to do it. And then I was like, I have to color these too. I can't just draw them in black and white. I have to color them. And then I spent a month drawing them, all my spare time drawing them, 25 different artworks, and then a whole month coloring them just in Photoshop. And then I was like, okay, now what? Like, I did it. The inspiration's done. And I was like, okay, they're done. And then, then that wave was done. The wave was over. And then I was kind of like, well, I feel kind of pointless just doing all that and then putting it in the drawer and filing it away with all my other unfinished projects. At least this one's kind of finished. So I had everything printed on poster size sheets, and I've been bringing them around town and having them sold at different art stores and dispensaries and different places like that. So yeah, I don't know what inspires people or how to get inspired.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. That's kind of like a similar process to what led me to make the cards, like my card deck. Just kind of lightning struck. I also created an emotional fitness board game, which is, I'm going to say it's in production. It might be a long production process, but yeah. So, and it just kind of hits, I can really relate to that. It just sort of seems to come out of nowhere, but I think if I think about inspiration, there's always a theme, and it always brings me back to my values. That's what I would bring everything back to values. We have to know what those are, because those are our primary motivators, whether we consciously acknowledge that or not. We can't act in according with our values without feeling good, and we can't act against them without feeling bad.
Right.
Like, that's so important. I will say it again. Like, we can't act in accordance with our values without feeling good, and we can't act in misalignment with them without feeling bad. So that's like a key to having self-awareness, you know. So I think inspiration, when our desire to act aligns with our values, you know, I feel like inspiration comes from that place. And the way it comes, well, I don't know, maybe it's different for everyone.
Yeah, I would say
depending what you're into.
Yeah. Geez, we could talk about this stuff forever.
I think so.
Yeah. So what would you say is a value? Because for me, a value is, so like right now I have all the free time in the world. My values are that I have lots of free time to spend with the dog, time to go on hikes, time to go to parks, having all the healthiest food that I can eat, and still being able to afford to live, right? So those are kind of like my values. Those are what I would call my values. Is that kind of the same idea of a value system, or do I have it a little twisted?
Well, I would like take those things and boil them down, as you said. So the value, like examples of values would be like trust, respect, loyalty, you know, those lists of sort of ideal qualities or characteristics. So what is the motivating factor that causes you to structure your life so that you can live that way? So that's kind of where you start to hit at it.
Okay, so you got to go
boiling it down more and more. Why do I want what I want, and how do I know I'm getting it? That's criteria. So there's the two sides. So two different people might have a shared value of, say, like respect, but I might say to you, I know you're respecting me when you tell me the truth, no matter if it hurts me or not. Just tell me the truth. That's how I know you're respecting me. That's my criteria. But you might say, I know you're respecting me when you don't hit me with information that I can't handle right now, or that's going to make me upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I know you're respecting me. That's a different set of criteria. So to really have a clear idea as individuals what our motivations are and what it is we are looking to create. So, for example, for myself, freedom's a big one. Trust, loyalty, integrity is a big one. And that kind of dictates the actions I take, and it pushes me into uncomfortable places, you know, having those values. You get tested.
Yeah, for sure. Now that when you put it in that light, now that I think of it that way, that makes a little more sense than I need time to walk my dog, man.
Well, maybe you have a value of you know, creating personal space for yourself, or that could be boiled down further for self-respect or self-care or some type of thing. And the criteria for that is that you have time to walk your dog when you feel like it. That's how you know that you're structuring your life in accordance with your values.
Right. I don't like having a boss, so self-employed. The structure, I don't like people telling me when to come and go, when to eat, when not to eat. I value having control over my own time. So that's a big one.
Control, autonomy, independence. Yeah, those are all values. And it's so cool because if you know that that's important to you, then you know already you can't go get a 9-to-5.
Oh, I know.
You know?
I mean,
this is where people get lost, you know, where we have so many influences telling us what we should be doing. If we don't have our values straight, we might end up in a situation that drives us nuts. Mm-hmm. And then we might think we're mentally ill. Mm-hmm. You know, it just compounds on itself. When really, it just, that job doesn't fit your value system, and you're not going to feel good if you have to go to work there, sort of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, like, for me, it doesn't matter what job it is. You give me the best job in the world and I'm not going to like it because, you know, I can't come and go as I please. I can't do, you know, whenever you're under someone else's authority, you're doing what they want when they want it. And I mean, it just doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with my personality. It doesn't work with my lifestyle. It just doesn't work. So I've at least figured that much out there's times, because you know what? that nice pay coming on a regular basis. It's all structured. It's security. It's comfortable. That feels great. But nothing grows in the comfort zone. You're never going to expand. You're never going to become greater. You're never going to do all the millions of ideas that you have if you're one of those kind of people. If you're constantly under the thumb of somebody else. And I don't know, just by escaping that whole 9-to-5 thing and doing my own thing that I do now I have all the time for these projects. Now I can do all this podcasting. But that's not to say I don't fantasize about it. It crosses my mind, at least once a month. I'm just like, oh, geez, I should go work at a gym. I think about that at least once a month. I should go work at a gym. Just because it would be nice to have a regular pay all the time. And then I'm like, I could meet new podcast guests at the gym. But then, I start thinking but then I'm not going to have time to do podcasts. I'm going to be working at a gym all the time. So
yeah, it's definitely a balancing act. And there's nothing, and it's not to say there's anything wrong with a job too. So if someone's value is security, stability, and their criteria for that is that they don't have to wonder where their next paycheck is going, they're going to be very happy working at the office or doing whatever, and that's cool too. So I kind of compromised with that. I was I've been a server for 10 years, part-time in restaurants, a little bit more than minimum wage, but few hours. So sort of balancing, trying to have a bit of that stability without putting myself in a situation that I know I would take too much of my time and energy and happiness, like having a desk job sort of thing. That's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But then in the end, I had to get rid of that because that was holding me back. So.
Yep. Yeah. So you said you're in Shediac. I used to work at the Bayou when it was one big building down there. When it had.
Oh yes, I'm actually in Lakeville. Not far from, but I know the Bayou. It's a cool spot.
Oh, Bayou, yeah. I was a bartender and server there for a few years while doing podcasts and doing stand-up comedy all over the place and doing hip-hop shows. So, it's great to have that stability, which was nice. But, I mean, in the end, it didn't really work out with wanting to do all the things that I wanted to do. So, you got to cut your ties sometimes and move on, man. Move on. Yeah. Well, geez. What do we got? It's been an hour and 21 minutes as of right now. So, I'm going to say thank you very much, Kathleen. I think we touched on everything that was in the notes here. Was there anything else you wanted to get into today? We could do another podcast too. I'm totally open for that if you'd like to return.
I think we should do another one. I think it would be fun.
Cool.
But I think it's been enough for one day. This covered a lot of territory there.
Yeah. I mean, it's late for you too. It's only 3:00 here, so I have the rest of the day ahead of me to go. And I'm actually going to go help my neighbor paint something on his house here in a few minutes. Good.
That's yeah. If I was to add anything else, I'm throwing it out there. There's a concept I've been playing with lately, and I'm picking it up from David Snyder again. He's the NLP hypnosis guy. I recommend anyone to check out his videos. But he applies this concept to the real law of attraction, and it's that the quickest way to achieve the success and results you want for yourself is to help someone else to achieve that. I just think that is the most awesome thing. It's really motivating me lately,
Cool.
And it kind of puts the wrench in that self-protective mode that we get in when we're stressed, when we're pressured, when we're feeling unstable, in all these different ways. Just serving other people and supporting other people to have the results that we want, and actually caring and being able to follow through and feel happy for other people's success. I feel like this is a golden key.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm going to check out David Snyder here once we're done and watch a bunch of his videos and really get into that. One more question. Should I throw my vision board in the garbage?
Why would you do that?
I just want to know if you think that they work or not. Is it more like law of attraction stuff? That seems to be a running theme through this podcast, so I thought I would end with that. Because this morning, I have it on my wall next to in my bedroom here, and this morning when I woke up, the glue had come undone, and the whole thing had kind of fallen half off of itself. Like I had it glued to this glitter backboard, and all the pieces were like falling off this morning when I woke up, and I was like, man, I put this thing on the wall and I haven't looked at it once. It's just there. It's just background noise. So for me, I'm like,
how do you feel about it?
I feel like, well, this is the first, I had made them before. I made one on the computer. So using Photoshop, I clipped and cut different things. But this one I did actually with magazines, which was way better, because when you're sitting there and all you have is a keyboard and a blank Google Images screen, you're going like, what can I search for? What are the things I want? Oh, my car payment. Yeah, let's put that on there. So then I brought up a picture of my car. This was before I had moved to LA. So I was like, I know, I'll put a picture of Los Angeles in the background. There was a girl I was chatting with on Facebook. Let's put this girl's picture on there too. So all these things were on there, and systematically every one of those things melted away and left my life, except for Los Angeles ended up being the only thing off my vision board that got accomplished that I went to. So this time around, I made this one with actual magazines. So now you're flipping through magazines and you're flipping through all these pages and books, and all of a sudden something jumps out that you never would have searched for on Google Images. It just jumps out at you. You're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's perfect. I don't know. I'm looking at it now like there was like a spiral. Just a spiral. So I was like, oh, that kind of represents my vortex. So I put this spiral, like a Fibonacci spiral. I put that right in the middle of the whole vision board. There's like a girl doing yoga. There's a girl meditating. There's a big sign that says enlightenment. There's some fiddleheads up in the top corner. There's a vehicle that I would like to get someday. I don't know, just shit like that. So I don't know. I think that the idea is that you're constantly supposed to see it and look at it every day, and by having it constantly in your mind, like I said it before, the neighbor's car that's for sale and you need to buy a car, but you're not seeing it because you're not in the market for a car, and now you are, so now you're going to see it. Hopefully that by having these things put into my brain might make me see these things, the opportunities as they arise out in public, but so far, nothing.
So how do you feel about it?
I feel like it was fun, a fun project, a fun art project to make, but I probably should have just put it in the drawer and put up a nice painting on my wall over there. But that's kind of how I feel.
It's funny. I don't know. Like, it's not for me to say. I think as long as we understand why we're doing things like that, I mean, I think it's, at this point in this day and age, it's a little naive to think that just because I cut something out of a magazine and put it on a board and look at it, that it's going to, just for the virtue of having done that, manifest in my life. However, for me, like, the purpose of those activities is more like you were saying, to just sort of plant the seeds of those experiences, but it's all to elicit an emotional response that makes us feel good, right?
Right.
So I would think that if the vision board was an honest reflection of my criteria and values, what's truly important to me, and I feel good when I look at it, or look good when I feel about it, then sure, like, put it on the wall. Why not? Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. All right, cool. Maybe I'll leave it there a little bit.
Just to have like an idea that just it's like, it's not, I don't know. I think people it's like the magic pill thing, magic pill spirituality. I feel like that's what a lot of people are looking for. Magic pill manifestation. It's like we're not always wanting to put the work in and the time in. Even going back to when you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. Well, a lot of the times what we love to do actually requires a lot of work. That's real talk.
Yeah, so. For sure. And I just want to say, the things that I love to do don't pay any money.
Yeah.
Then
And then
that.
there's the challenge of monetizing our passion. Yeah. So
Right.
I think it's just like, people take that stuff too literally, and just lighten up and have your values. If you have that, you've got it. If you've got your values in place, you're going to know when what you're doing is fulfilling you, because you will feel it. You will feel good because what you are doing will be in alignment with those values.
Yeah.
If you don't know that, we can get confused. We can be influenced. We can be distracted, sidetracked, We can start believing all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to monetize my favorite thing to do. My absolute 100% favorite thing to do on this earth is nothing. I love doing nothing. I love just sitting on a beach and staring out at the water and do nothing. How can I make money off of that, Kathleen? Help me out here.
Let's talk after the podcast.
We'll talk after.
I have an idea for you.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for being here. Thank you so much. It's been a blast. I don't know if you have anything for sale online, or if you have any kind of website you want to direct people to at this point.
Well, thank you, Jason. It was really fun talking, and having the chance to talk about some of these things is fun for me, because when you have these interests, there's not always an abundance of people around close by who want or care to talk about them. So that's really, really great. If I was to promote any aspect of what I'm doing right now, I kind of operate under two last names. So my business identity is KC Sutherland, kcsutherland.com, another proud Scottish name. And that's my marketing website. So if any business owners are listening and you're having trouble scaling or growing your business, or you're having cash flow problems and you want to use smart marketing to fix them, kcsutherland.com, and you can contact me through there.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thank you again. That's it for Beyond the Mat. Another episode. Peace out. Bye.
Bye.
Whew, wow. Yeah. So that was awesome. Like I said on the intro side of this, these things just keep on getting better. And that was another one of my favorites. Yeah. So Kathleen can be reached at info@kcsutherland.com. You can also check out her website, kcsutherland.com, for all the things that she does, as she mentioned in the podcast. I just wanted to reiterate that here for y'all. Again, Kathleen's going to be back again for another podcast in the future. We're going to talk about all that new agey stuff, all the hippy dippy woo woo, all the things that I love to talk about, all the things I love in my life. But I also keep a skeptic eye on, because when you let that kind of stuff run wild, it can get out of hand. And we're going to get down to the bottom of this. Just me and Kathleen figuring it out. That's right. So keep on listening, folks. Keep on coming back to Beyond the Mat. You never know who's going to be on here, what we're going to be talking about. I mean, I'm sure you have an idea. Probably something to do with meditation and yoga and flow state, of course. But who knows what else? How far this thing is going to span. That's it for today's show. Peace, love, and light. Namaste. And all that other good noise. And we out. Ding.